Hello again, and welcome to this new episode of Hamza podcast. Today is going to be fully in English. Why? Because we have a very, very interesting guest, um, Mr. Dom Hebblethwaite, who is from the CIOL, or from the Chartered Institute of Linguists. So now I will give the floor to Dom to introduce us a bit more to you, to what you do, to CIOL, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much, Elsa. Yes, I am Dom Hebblethwaite. I'm the head of membership for the Chartered Institute of Linguists. We are a British professional body with the unique British Royal Charter, which is something which is awarded to one organisation, one professional body in each field. You have chartered accountants, lawyers, architects, and so on and so forth. So for every profession, and we're the chartered body for linguists. We have around about 5,200 professional members who are around, obviously in the UK, the majority in the UK, but we also have around 30% of our members around the world. I believe it's 100 different countries we have members in, and it's over 100 different languages our members speak. So all across Europe, all across the Middle East, Asia, obviously the Americas, and all around the world. There's not too many countries you won't find a COL member. We also have an awarding organisation which delivers translation qualifications and also interpreting qualifications, although the interpreting qualifications are specifically for the UK and the public sector. We also, in terms of our translation qualifications, we have a diploma in translation and a certificate in translation. The diploma in translation is at level 7, so at master's level qualification, and the certificate in translation is level 6, so sort of bachelor's degree equivalent. So yes, that's a little bit about us. Chartered bodies are there obviously to represent the profession, to represent translators, interpreters, and other people using their languages in their professional work, and to advance standards and promote the value of linguists. In terms of myself, my background, I speak Italian. I used to live in Italy, so I've always worked either in sort of business or languages. Prior to joining CIOL, which was 7 years ago now, but prior to that, I worked for Trados, which most of your translator viewers will know very well. So so I was responsible for the UK corporate market for Trados as well. So I have a bit of a background in technology as well, from translation memory software, terminology software, and of course machine translation as well. And there I used to work a lot with companies who are looking to work particularly with freelancers direct. And so have a sort of good experience of the different kind of questions, misunderstandings about translation and technology, and a sort of perspective on both this kind of freelancer side and also what companies and LSPs are looking for. So yes, that's a brief introduction.
Wow. And it's really interesting because our topic today will go more into this technology in translation, especially in this era of trust deficit. So it's very interesting to have you from a background of technology so that you can explain to us more what this is about, what's technology in translation, what have you seen, those big changes that are happening in the world for now, and what's your take on it, and especially that now you are a member of a really important institute that I am a member of. Actually, I am also a CIOL member.
Yes. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I mean, especially talking about translation, obviously, as you know well, it's a profession, an industry or profession, however you want to look at it, that has been affected, hugely by technology for decades, really. It's probably certainly one of the, if not the profession that's most been affected by technology over the years. Translation memory software obviously made big changes to the way many translators worked and businesses worked. And was always confused, or has often been confused, with machine translation. I mean, when I was working at Trados, it took me about 3 years to explain to my mum that I wasn't working for Google Translate. She just didn't seem to understand it. Put it in your database and tell me anytime she wanted to know something. Translation memory was very controversial when it first came out decades ago, and terminology, and then obviously machine translation was very controversial. And then we've had different waves of machine translation, from statistical machine translation to sort of neural translation. At sort of at the time DeepL came out, and there are advancements there, and then obviously now we have AI, ChatGPT, LLMs, and so there's constant sort of changes and developments. You could say that translators are perhaps less, in some ways, less existentially challenged by technology than maybe some other professions where they've, it being influenced by technology is a completely new thing. For translation, it's nothing new, but yeah, obviously there's developments all the time.
Obviously. And now, which begs the question, how do we keep trust in a profession that is heavily now impacted by these new developments? And because we can hear it everywhere and all the time, people are even hiring AI interpreters, and they are telling us, hey, wait, but I can use AI and it can do the job for me, and a lot of times it does.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and I mean, again, in a sense, it's not new. I mean, as I say, when I was working for Trados, I had quite often conversations with companies saying, "Well, we can just use, machine translation, and that's fine."
Yeah.
And so these conversations have always been going on, but they just sort of keep going on, and accelerating. I mean, I think one thing we do need to do and continuously do is to try and educate, obviously, clients, but also in a realistic way, that there may be scenarios where, or there are scenarios where using AI or using machine translation, or at least first, may actually make sense. But there are strengths and weaknesses. We know obviously hallucinations can be a big problem with AI. Misunderstanding the context of content, and that you can get very fluid looking content, which can be quite hard to spot errors. So it does depend. I mean, I think we need to sort of engage pragmatically with technology, point out strengths and weaknesses, and the role of a skilled linguist there. I mean, I certainly do believe that for skilled, qualified, accredited linguists, there's still very important roles to play. These roles may and are changing in certain circumstances, and very much also looking at the type of content and what the best way to approach it is. If it's very dry, standard technical content that's been done before, there's one approach. If it's a completely fresh content, or if it's for on a more sort of marketing side, they're different approaches, basically based on the content. And what I do believe is that there is an increasing role for linguists to act more and more as consultants for clients, and bring kind of, obviously, the translation skills and the background in that, but also having that kind of understanding that can be really actually valuable for clients. So it's a constant process. The roles are changing. We may move more towards localization, bilingual editing, all sorts of different roles. But really, it's bringing that extra value that we can be in, that kind of general understanding of the project, of the language, of the culture, or whatever it is we need to bring to bring the most value.
Yeah, yes, indeed. We are seeing this kind of a shift in the role translators and LSPs or language service providers are playing right now. So, and yes, it really is so relevant when we speak about each field requires a different approach. So if it's highly technical, if it's like just standard dry technical, if it's a marketing thing, if it's literary, if it's cultural thing, and each of them differ and the approach differs with them. So let's say, like very pragmatically, a client comes to you and says, giving you this attitude, saying, "Hey, I just want AI to work for me." What is it that you say to them in a way that they understand? Because like one of the goals of this podcast is to raise awareness among the people who are not really into the field of translation as well, to understand what the importance of a trained professional and their role in such a process.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's maybe a question I don't cover so much now at CIOL, where we're working for our members rather than working with buyers of translation. However, certainly, you know, we'd be looking at understanding what the project is really, and you know, and advising based on that. As you said, you know, there's all sorts of different areas, different types of content, different objectives for the content. So I think the first thing is to really show an understanding of the client and what they're you know, what they're looking to achieve, and then advise accordingly on that. And it may be a case of looking at different aspects of whatever their strategy is, and advising in different solutions for different ways of doing it. If the content's not that important, you might even say you could run that through AI, maybe with a light check. If this is important marketing copy, we need to make sure we get this right, and we need to make sure that the kind of meaning comes across in the way, you know, and so on and so forth. So it's really kind of segmenting it. And there is also, of course, a role for specialization within the content and the subject areas as well. So if that's a strength, playing to that strength as well.
Amazing, amazing. So it's actually adapting to the client needs and what's the best thing to assure quality, and again bringing it back to trust and responsibility when it comes to translation and technology.
Absolutely, beautifully put.
Amazing. That's amazing. So okay, we are still in this practically the same context, and this is a question actually that I truly like to ask. How do we build a future in translation that clients actually trust when now AI and technology is everywhere?
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
brings back a bit to the context of what we were talking
yeah,
about, but
yeah,
still.
yeah. Well, there's a very interesting sort of model from it's called the Gartner hype cycle, and it's a sort of model for technology whereby every kind of technology, new technology, goes through a certain process where you get this sort of really big hype cycle where everyone gets sort of thinks everything's going to completely change, and then you start to get this sort of plateau which comes when people realize, well, that doesn't sort of work so well, and then you start getting they call it a trough of disillusionment, where suddenly people start saying, oh, this technology is hopeless, and they kind of react the other way, and then you sort of end up somewhere sort of at a, if you like, a higher level in terms of the technology, but after going through this kind of whoa sort of cycle like that. And I think we probably are possibly in have reached certainly the peak of a certain hype cycle with AI, where people, you know, people are finding more and more sort of, you know, silly errors, or there's maybe an element of sort of disillusionment. So it's understanding a little bit where we are in the cycle. Sort of certainly heard of cases where people have gone all AI, and then they've suddenly realized, well, this isn't working, and then, you know, sort of going back the other way. So there's always a sort of middle ground in this, really, but you know, you know, and you can understand that a CEO is going to say, well, look, if I can do everything with AI, I'm going to do everything with AI, but being able to kind of selectively point out those, you know, those errors or those bits, this all this all helps, and I do think there is always the role, or at least certainly as far as we can see, going to be the role for that trusted sort of human accountability that you can take for content. We're not at the stage where I think any or many people believe you can actually fully trust AI to sign something off. For example, it's still very much at a useful tool in some cases, or in many cases at specific tasks, rather than having that kind of overview, holistic view. So I think that's going to be increasingly the role for linguists, is being that trusted sort of advisor, accountability, and having somebody effectively to take responsibility for this. So again, these are the kind of roles for skilled linguists that we can see. Obviously, there's still translation work, but more and more there's also these additional roles that we can play.
Yeah, so we see this additional responsibility, this additional accountability that human trained professionals have to carry on in this, like, so to put it in other words, so we start with this big hype, and then it plateaus, and then it drops, and then we come to some sort of a middle ground or a compromise. Oh, okay, we can use that in that context, in these, let's say, in these situations, but we need a human trained professional to take accountability, to oversee if this is a job well done or not, if it's the right area to use these things, these new hyped technologies happening. So that's what basically you're experiencing in your context, and basically every technical professional.
Exactly, and I mean we all see sort of the examples, whether it's even just still not being able to say how many R's are in the word strawberry with an LLM. This has been going on for ever since it comes out. So there are these there are these real blind spots, and however, we have to recognize that for many specific tasks it can be incredibly good, but we're still lacking the kind of the overview, the sort of AGI or ASL, whatever the latest label they want to give it. And I mean, it certainly looks like there will need to be new technologies, different technologies other than LLMs or generative AI, in order for that to be achieved. There will be other there will be other technologies before the machines can take that kind of holistic view of things. So yeah, absolutely. It sort of engaging with technology in a positive, constructive way, but also understanding the strengths, but also the limitations, I think is absolutely key for us to do.
Amazing. And since you were speaking about AGI and LLMs and all those models, can you give us like a brief explanation of what this is about, and why, for example, we need more advanced technology for us to see this more holistic view? For me, for example, who is not very much tech savvy, how do I
Yeah.
understand that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and I'm not sure anybody fully understands exactly how LLMs work, and I certainly don't. But the I mean, the key thing with them is they're generative models, which will always give you an answer. That's kind of how they're designed, which can make them very, very fluent, in the same way that neural machine translation was much more fluent than statistical machine translation. It was a sort of a big level of increase in terms of fluency, but then you also had this, what they called neurobabble, where you could get something that looked really good but made absolutely no sense, because again, neural machine translation, which is actually essentially based, as I understand, on transformers and a very similar technology to what ChatGPT and so forth were based, that neural machine translation almost led into the modern AIs. So you get very different. You get basically something which is always generating answers for you, and can appear incredibly accurate, and and fluid, but will also make errors and doesn't have this still the common sense thing, or there's very simple examples of maths problems that they can't solve, but then they can solve incredibly complex ones. It's so certainly the belief is there will be other technologies which will bolt on to the existing technologies if the sort of tech geeks achieve their goal of these all-purpose intelligence systems. So we're certainly not there with these systems, but obviously they've advanced a lot.
Yes, exactly. And this is why also we speak about, again, about trust, about standards, about quality. And so what are now the new standards of quality that we should be taken into consideration as also translators and interpreters and language service providers when we have these new technologies that are coming up, that are delivering something, but sometimes you don't really understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so how does these standards grow with the growth of a professional in
Yeah.
the area of technology that really advances you a lot as well?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a great question, and I think we really need to ensure that that we have sort of human assessed judges of the quality. Again, with machine translation, there's lots of models, or have been, like the Blue and the other models for assessing machine translation quality, but they've never really worked very effectively. And what we're now also seeing is, obviously, we're seeing more and more AI generated content, not just for translation, but just English AI generated content, or in all sorts of languages, and then machines training themselves on AI generated content rather than human generated content. So there's a whole kind of
it's a cycle.
Yeah, cycle, which can be a vicious cycle. I mean, having said that, the LLMs can be pretty good at judging translation quality, can do a useful job there in a way that you couldn't do before. So it will probably end up being a combination of the two. But yeah, again, the ultimate judge should be, again, the skilled linguist. I think it's fair to say that it's going to be really only the skilled linguists, the qualified accredited linguists, who can distinguish themselves in the new world. But they're there, and will have an important role to play.
Yes, yes, that's for sure. And especially when we're talking about languages such as Arabic, we are still seeing a lot of lack and a lag in Arabic. I've been once to an event, actually, as an interpreter. I was an interpreter over there, and there were rooms where AI was used as an interpreter, and we listened to it. Actually, I had also colleagues who were working into Spanish, into French, etc., and and Chinese, and the feedback was the same. We were horrified by the quality of the interpretation given. And we were like, how, in a big, very high stake event, do you take such a risk while there's a lot at stake? And we were the only people who would say, well, this is not happening because, like, okay, 1, 2, 3. But then we had this decision from an official saying, okay, we are going to stick now to human interpreting. So this is something that I've experienced myself, and this is why, like, I really, really want to push into that point, because a trained professional is irreplaceable. It only develops with the development of technology, with development of whatever AI, machine learning models, whatever you want to call them. And this only gets us growing more creative, thinking outside the box. And actually it makes us focus on the more complex consultative things rather than just like word for word transferring.
Absolutely, and the hope is potentially it will actually elevate the most skilled linguist, and of course interpreting is such a difficult skill, and absolutely in any kind of high stakes, or even medium high stakes, you do need skilled professionals there, of course. I mean, what I would say as well is that there are also variations in quality between languages. I mean, obviously, particularly AIs is English is the dominant language, maybe to a lesser extent Chinese as well. I mean, with machine translation, there's always been big differences in quality. So my language, Italian, has been one of the best qualities, English to Italian,
Yeah.
compared to other languages. It's always kind of been French, Italian amongst the strongest. Uh, Arabic, I believe, less good quality. Chinese, less good quality. Scandinavian languages, less good quality. Lower
Yeah.
resourced languages, even much worse. So there's big sort of variations, and I don't see that changing in the short term. It might even exacerbate with the kind of dominance of English in certain ways. So that may even create more issues. So and more need, for that extra human skill touch.
That's that's really interesting to know and to understand to the extent of which um, this can go, especially when it comes to languages that are not English, basically.
Mm.
And now I'm wondering about, as CIOL, for example, what do you have as options or as initiatives to help those trained language professionals navigate this new era?
Yes. Well, I mean, we obviously provide resources for our members. We've run webinars on using technology, on using LLMs for the benefit of for freelancers rather than sort of having it imposed upon you. We our council, we published COL Voices, a couple of white papers on AI, trying to take a realistic, pragmatic approach. Obviously, not denying the existence of, and just saying this is the worst thing and this is terrible, because we know that even if we'd like to, we can't stop it.
It's
But
here to stay.
it's here to stay. Sadly, CIOL is not going to stop. But pointing out, errors, concerns over data, hallucinations, and generally promoting the role of the skilled linguist. We also are the secretariat for the all-party parliamentary group for modern languages in the UK at the sort of the House of Lords. So we organise regular meetings there and put pressure where we can on government. That's on the UK side of pointing out concerns and so forth. In all sorts of areas, whether that's AI use in the medical field, in the hospitals, the NHS, or all sorts of areas there. So we collaborate with fellow professional bodies as well, to try and do what we can to promote linguists, point out the dangers, while, like I say, maintaining a realistic, pragmatic.
And which totally makes sense. And so I would love to, since we are talking about a realistic and pragmatic approach, I would be very interested in knowing, for example, an example that you have experienced in real time, in real life, of a concern or a hallucination or whatever happened, and you said, no, we have to intervene at that point. Especially you spoke, for example, about medical and NHS. So are they
Yes.
using AI just like that?
Yes. Well, I mean, and this
Oh,
this
wow.
is obviously yeah. So I mean, maybe one specific example I can give is we've been working with UCL, University in London, one of the major universities in London, on a cancer research project for blood cancer. Looking at, we had a meeting in the House of Lords just a month or so ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, where, again, realistic approach. We know that there may be sort of emergent certain low stakes situations where people need something quickly, but really pushing for the importance of having certain documentation, for example, consent forms for cancer treatment being translated. So we've run examples using comparing human translation with AI translation there, and very much pushing that certain key documents must be translated. Obviously, for patient understand, we've seen errors where something says don't seek advice when it meant to say you must seek advice. These sort of potentially
Wow.
catastrophic errors, and having at the very least, certain key documents that must be translated for the patients so they can understand, obviously, also for the interpreters if they're working with patients to have a kind of reference document that they can work with. So that would be a very specific example of saying, well, hang about, this simply cannot be translated with AI or machine translation. So I hope that helps. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, here a person's life is on the line, and then it's translated, instead of "you must seek advice," it is said "you cannot seek advice."
Yeah, or do not seek
Okay.
advice in this situation. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, there's issues like that, and we know AI has big issues with numbers as well. So prescription, what the prescription should be. Different numbers can be dots, commas, all different sort of things like that. So yeah, there's huge risks. But of course, people will still use Google Translate or ChatGPT in certain scenarios, but whatever is kind of said. So it's trying to be realistic, but also having certain we were calling them anchors of stability within this kind of sea of chaos. Certain things absolutely have to be professionally human translated. You absolutely need the skilled interpreter in these circumstances, these kind of things.
Wow. Definitely, for sure. And here's a really living, shocking example. Actually, I wasn't really expecting something like that. It's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. And this is why, like, we've been now speaking about that for quite a while. But what are the things, for example, that we haven't mentioned yet in this episode that you think is absolutely necessary, or are absolutely necessary for us to be aware of, to know about, to get a better idea about, to talk about even?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've largely sort of covered it, but I mean, I guess there's kind of probably three principles, I think, for linguists, for translators to kind of potentially to adopt. I mean, we certainly believe, specialization within the field is very important and increasingly important. There's many examples again with AI where AI can be better than sort of 80 to 90% of people in a certain task, but the skilled humans in that specific task are better. So the sort of specialization is very important. Subject matter expertise and so forth. Expanding, using your translation skills to expand your services. Multilingual SEO. Localization, whatever it may be. There's a whole range of different potential services that can be offered. There are already so many different jobs within the sort of localization industry / profession that didn't exist 10 years ago, that didn't exist 20 years ago. So being open to different sort of services and having that kind of consultancy role is key. And then as we've discussed, sort of engaging with technology making use of it and taking advantage of it for yourself and understanding the strengths of weaknesses. And I think that can help you to be more efficient, to work in different ways, but also to advise, when is right and when is not right to use technology.
So 3 principles: specialization, expanding services, and engaging with technology, knowing strength, weaknesses.
Yes, yeah, kind of selective engagement with technology. I would say yes, exactly. Yeah.
Why not? Why not? And this is what will keep the competitive advantage of each translator. Or there's something, or like a little secret or a little zest that we didn't know about yet.
I mean, I think we've covered it there. I mean, nobody knows exactly the way everything is going to go, but I guess adaptability is key, as it always has been, and will be, and maybe there's a hope that some jobs, and I hear some fascinating jobs that some of our members have been taking recently that wouldn't have existed before. So
Like
it,
what?
different ways of actually assisting maybe AI for different services, or but where previously it was a sort of pure translation job, or different sort of roles that people can do, or again more on the sort of consultancy side, and sort of increasingly becoming consultants to different clients. So there's different options and things happening, and it's challenging times, but I think many linguists can actually do well within this, within adaptability and different roles, and I think the consultancy thing can be key, and can end up being fun and fulfilling. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see how everyone goes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And this is why actually I developed a coaching business related
Uh-huh.
to trailblazers and thought leaders who like they excel in their local language, but they want to go global. They want to go in another language or in English in that case. And actually, this is more fulfilling than anything else. So I have
Nice.
two greatly fulfilling jobs, which is a conference interpreter, a coach, and now a podcast host. So I can see where this is going because like I do have this um let's say entrepreneurial spirit
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to think like okay, what I do have these skills that I developed for over a decade.
Hmm.
How do I use them now in an era that is very uncertain? And
Yeah.
this was my specific answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, fantastic. You're the perfect case study, Elsa.
I think, yeah, being a living example is something totally different. And this is why like I love having these conversations. Um, it's a way to tell people like if you are freaking out and if you are having those panic moments, it's because you are really experiencing that this is a transitional period, and
Mm,
this is something that we are experiencing as a change in humanity. And just like before, where workers had a role and then machines came and replaced so many roles, but workers didn't lose their skills or whatever they had to develop other skills. It's the same thing in our era here. And this is why like I'm really stressing the importance of um, expanding of the skills of
mm,
entrepreneurship. And you
mm,
mentioned so many times the word consultancy
mm,
because like this is one of the biggest roles that a human being is actually human while performing such a role. And
absolutely.
yeah, exactly. And whereas it's the adaptability that we spoke about as
Hmm.
well, which is extremely important. And we spoke about so many times, and it was mentioned so many times in our episode. So yeah, I wanted to like really stress that example and that importance because so many people I saw that they were like quite isolating themselves instead of understanding that, yeah, maybe I should start working on something, on adapting, on doing something different. And as linguists, we can do that because we are learning a language, which means we are learning a culture, we are being a bridge. We already have this muscle developed.
Mm, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Elsa.
So, yeah, so now in the last few minutes, anything like very burning that you want to mention that we haven't maybe mentioned yet, or something that you want to share?
I don't have anything really more to add other than to echo your sentiments that that change does bring opportunity, and
Mhm.
and we do have two options. We we can just say this is terrible, and I wish it could just go back to how it was, but that's not going to sort of that's not going to help. And there'll obviously be positives and negatives, but there can be exciting opportunities as well. And if we can adapt, we can expand offerings, and provide more services, and do more varied and interesting work, while still having that foundational basis of translation and interpreting skills.
Exactly, exactly. And so for me, that was basically everything. Any message on behalf of CIOL?
We value you. We will always promote the value of skilled human linguists and the crucial and important role that we all do to make the world a better place.
That's amazing. That was everything. I hope everyone that you enjoyed your coffee, because today it was a really, really nice conversation. And see you soon in the next episode.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dom, for this.